Chapter 1. Happy Birthday. It was a late, sultry spring evening, and the Worthies found themselves huddled together in their compact car, unable to contain their excitement. Tonight was an unusual experience for the Worthies. They seldom had the means to dine out, but this was a special occasion. Precisely 7 years ago, on a night much like this one, Lake Worthy was born. With a sigh of relief, Darren parked the family jalopy in the lot behind the old, weather-stained brick building. Each time he drove the aging car, he silently wondered if it would be its last trip. The Worthies were not a well-off family, and it wasn't uncommon for Darren and his wife Maha to work multiple jobs. Currently, Maha had a full-time job, while Darren toiled long hours at 2. Since starting a family at a young age, neither had pursued higher education, and the family had grown accustomed to working multiple jobs simultaneously, all while raising their kids adequately. Some days were tougher than others, but they had both worked tirelessly to save up enough to take Lake to her favorite restaurant in Effingham. Darren smiled and mentally patted himself on the back. Then he proudly declared, "We're here." Fanny's Kitchen was an ancient dive diner that, even after all these years, somehow retained the lingering scent of cigarette smoke inside it. But it was the little girl's favorite, the colorful circus theme and balloons capturing her attention. The birthday girl ran into the restaurant ahead of her older brother and parents. Running up to the counter, Lake eagerly demanded a bright red balloon, and the hostess happily complied, smiling at the awaiting little girl, hopping in place in front of her. The hostess had just finished tying the string to Lake's wrist as the rest of the family caught up to the excited birthday girl. The Worthies were ushered past several old, faded paintings featuring circus animals, clowns, and balloons. Lake giddily stared at each picture, and her golden brown curls bounced with each step. She ran to a booth right next to the front window, which had big top tents painted on them. The table was bright yellow, with 2 large dark cracks running through it that had been filled with a thick, shiny lacquer. It was also stained with the indelible stench of bleach and coffee. The benches were dark purple and covered with evidence of the previous occupants. Darren brushed the leftovers onto the floor, and they all piled into the booth, hungry and eager to order. When the waitress came by, Lake didn't even glance at the colorful menu before saying, "I want a plain hot dog with French fries, please." Her older brother Adam playfully shoved her and joked, "Big surprise. That's what you get every time we go anywhere." Lake turned pink and shouted back, "It's my favorite, and today's my birthday." Adam just smirked and looked down at his menu. After careful contemplation, he finally decided, "I'll have a cheeseburger with everything and an order of fries. Thank you. Oh, and a cherry Coke, please." He smiled and handed the older, pretty, teenage waitress his menu, embarrassed to make eye contact. Once everyone had ordered, Maha wasted no time, pulling out Lake's presents from an old plastic grocery bag she had carried into the restaurant. She handed her daughter a small box wrapped in old red paper left over from Christmas that she ensured had no snowmen or pictures of a jolly old fat man on it. Darren and Maha knew that Lake had badly wanted a specific necklace she'd seen advertised on TV. It was being sold by a young girl who was the lead actress from Lake's favorite show, Moon Magic. It was a silly show about a preteen witch who was hiding her powers and true identity, and it was all set in a Californian beach town. It was all the rage with young girls, and Lake was no exception. It was a gold crescent moon pendant adorned with small gems and, of course, gave the character magical powers. Maha and Darren knew that they would not be able to afford the overpriced trinket, but luckily enough, Maha already had a similar one from her childhood. It was a beautiful pendant, gold and in the shape of a large crescent moon, but it had no jewels on it. However, it still seemed to have a luminescent sheen. Lake tore off the paper and lifted the box cover. She was delighted, having found her gift to be even better than the necklace on Moon Magic. Lake giggled with joy and immediately put the necklace on before running over to give her parents great big hugs. As she turned towards Adam, she picked up a nearby butter knife and with a flick of her wrist said, "Poof! You're a frog." Adam pretended to cower, then called out, "All right, now it's my turn." He slid over a brown paper bag that was folded over on top and covered in Star Wars stickers. Lake's large brown eyes danced with delight as she ripped it open and looked inside. There was a homemade slingshot, complete with 5 perfectly sized round rocks. On the carved wooden handle, Adam placed the Rebel Resistance symbol, another sticker from the Star Wars movies. Despite his consternation over his gift to his sister, he knew she would love it. Lake was the polar opposite of her older brother in every way. While Lake was the spitting image of her father, Adam shared his mother's dark features. Lake's light brown curls and eyes were a stark contrast to Adam's unruly dark brown hair and dark eyes masked by his too small for his face black-rimmed glasses. The differences between the two didn't just end with appearances. Most notably, Lake was unafraid, always taking chances or risking life and limb, whereas Adam had always been a very cautious kid. Due to her reckless behavior, Lake had suffered countless bumps, scrapes, and even a few broken bones, yet none could keep her down for long. 5 minutes after taking a nasty spill, she would be right back up, jumping out of a tree or poking at a hornet's nest. On the other hand, Adam had never recovered from the fear of hurting himself after a terrifying accident when he was only 2 years old. He had fallen down a flight of stairs and sobbed uncontrollably for hours, even after the doctor found no scratches, bumps, or bruises. Through it all, however, Adam loved his sister and would do anything for her. This included making her a somewhat dangerous birthday present. Darren notably cringed a little, attempting to conceal his concern, saying, "Wow, a slingshot, huh? That is an interesting choice." Lake, ignoring her father's obvious reservations about Adam's gift, threw her arms around him, yelling, "I love it! Thank you!" Adam, unable to control his grin, told her, "Just please be careful." It truly was an unexpected gift coming from Adam, who avoided high places and dangerous situations at all costs. He was never the type to do belly flops off the couch, jump ramps on his bike, or do the crazy, reckless things kids his age enjoyed doing. He didn't even start riding a bike until after he turned 7 years old, despite Darren's yearly encouragement and coaxing. He was probably the only 12-year-old kid who would always choose a quiet corner to read a science fiction novel over taking any type of risk. Adam could spend hours dreaming about becoming an astronaut, blasting off on a mission to save the fate of the entire planet, or visiting a galaxy far, far away. Yet, he never ventured out to make friends or put in the extra effort at school. To put it simply, Adam Worthy was terrified of doing anything outside of his comfort zone. Finally, The server approached the worthies, meal stacked on the tray in hand. Lake started devouring her food, failing to notice the envelope her mother had slid across the table. Maha had received the letter in the mail that very day and had immediately recognized the swift handwriting that had written the address. Reaching for a napkin to wipe some ketchup off her face, Lake glanced at the letter. "What's this?" she asked. Lake picked up the envelope and squinted at the return address. 444 Angels Road, Mountain, North Dakota. There was no zip code. She looked up at her mom. "What does ND stand for?" Maha whispered. "North Dakota, sweetie." "Who is this from? I do not know anyone who lives in North Dakota." Maha sighed and twirled her spaghetti around on the plate. "That's from your grandmother Norin, my mother." Recognition finally fled into Lake's eyes. Every now and then, either Lake or Adam would receive a birthday present or a Christmas card in the mail from the grandmother that neither of them remembered. Actually, Lake had never even met her grandmother. Adam was wearing the last gift she sent him, and it was his favorite shirt. It had a picture of the Star Wars original movie cover on it, and although it used to practically hang off his frame, it was one of the only shirts he owned that fit him properly since his growth spurt. Lake stared at the envelope for a few more seconds, imagining its contents before ripping it apart. 2 crisp $100 bills fell out onto the bright yellow table. Maha dropped her fork, the noise clanging loudly, and everyone stopped moving. The worthies gawked at the money in amazement, not believing their eyes. Adam, his jaw on the floor, couldn't believe that just in that split second, his little sister suddenly became 4 times richer than he was. Lake quickly grabbed the 2 bills, shoved them back into the open envelope, and slid them into her jeans pocket before anyone could say a word. After a moment of silence, Lake was unable to control her curiosity any longer. She blurted out, "Mom, why don't we ever see Grandma?"